Hello everyone, it is TooAwesome here with another video. Now this video will contain spoilers for seasons 1 and 2 of The Promised Neverland. If you want a non-spoiler review on the topic, make sure to check out this video I made not too long ago. But if you've been around the channel recently, then you probably saw I reviewed the first season of The Promised Neverland not too long ago. And in that video, I said I would make a review on the second season when it finished. And well, it did. And you're watching this video, so this is The Promised Neverland Season 2 review. To start this video off, I want to get a few things out of the way. I did not and have not read the manga. Look, I know about all the negative emotions shared about this show, and chances are you do too. And one thing that was constantly brought up was that it skipped manga arcs and how it deviated from the manga too much. But since I haven't read it, I won't be comparing it to that. This video is simply about the anime only. Now, back in 2019 when I first watched the first season of The Promised Neverland, one of the things that really kept me watching was the thought of the outside world. And if you know me, that doesn't really come as a surprise since world building is a big thing for me, especially with how much I get into a show, and so often would I think and theorize on how the outside world worked, specifically the society and how humans interacted with the demons. I thought for some time that maybe it was an integrated society with demons and humans coexisting, but the humans having significantly less power, but having enough specific families in power that they were allowed to survive with the sacrifice of the humans on the farms. And well, was I right? No, but it's the thought that counts, and when a show gets me to think and theorize like that, it can be very fun. So already the show was given a boost and a leg up since I already was looking forward to what was outside. But sadly, right from the beginning scene of the children running, it seemed off. Plus, they continuously reused it for whatever reason, but it had me saying to myself, this doesn't feel like the first season, and it didn't. First off, I wasn't a big fan of the new CGI. To be blunt, it doesn't look really good, and it always took away from the scenes that it was in. I also just thought the animation looked choppier. It wasn't as smooth as the first season, and a lot of the stuff in the background either didn't look good, wasn't fully animated, or completely stagnant and still, which is a far cry from the crisp and smooth animation of the first season. Although I will say that some of the environments can look quite beautiful, especially when they were in nature, but even though I had some complaints about the show, I was still enjoying it. I actually thought it was quite solid. I was enjoying the children roam this world in a sort of action-adventure style. It was fun, and it had me questioning what had people so mad, because at least to me, through episodes 1 through 4, while not as good as the first season, it still was really solid nonetheless. Then the time skip came. And it wasn't a ridiculous amount of time, but still enough time for me to question how they survived for so long. Plus, it just felt out of place and quite odd. But it's something that the show sadly doesn't explain, and this is one of dozens of missed explanations or weird potholes. Like, we learned that the people of the farm knew that Minerva betrayed them, and that was his alias that he went by. So why not crack down on the books in the farm and destroy the hideouts he made? Because there is no way he made those hideouts without the oversight or knowing of the demons. And I can't get over the idea that they use grass and herbs to mask their scent. It just doesn't feel like enough. Especially against an enemy that has been shown to heavily rely on their noses for their perception, so how come they can't discern them if they have just a little grass and bags? And also, that goes for the old demon that comes into the temple, especially with the sheer amount of children there. How does he not smell or suspect anything? And I know he drank the blood, so he doesn't degenerate, but still, not even a comment on their existence? Maybe he alluded to knowing that they were human, but it's still just a little odd to me. Also, there was a weird Emma exposition scene. It was just really odd. Why was she talking to herself in such an obvious way? It's clear that it was only to relay the information to the audience, but I feel like it could have been done differently. Although this is a very specific example, and I doubt I can find clips for it, but if I do, props to me, I guess. Also, when they all go into town and they are questioned about having human meat or something, the demons can't confirm if they are human just by them running if their grass works so well, which I guess it does since it lasted them so long, but it would be more reasonable if they thought they stole some human meat or something along those lines. Now, this is, in my mind, the point in the show where it really started to take a nosedive straight into the ground. Because, why is Norman here? I thought this reveal was so dumb. Look, I myself am not the biggest fan of fake out deaths, although I will say they can be done correctly, but to me this feels out of place and kind of dumb, but I'll give it to them. It doesn't make all too much sense, and I think it would have been better if Norman just died, having his sacrifice for the children to escape mean more, but I guess there was that possibility, so I'll give it to them. Although I did kind of feel bad for those demons that they were killed when Norman and his crew first arrived. They were just trying to provide for their family, and at that point in the story, you would probably think that they would die, and since they can't provide for themselves, so I guess that is a positive since it had me sympathizing with the demons. Also, I did like the idea of the demons eating humans getting further development. I think the whole idea of the form-based diet is a really cool idea, and I'm glad they added it. Plus, the whole extra class-based thing with the king distributing meat is an awesome touch, and well, it helped build this world for me a lot more when watching. Plus, it brought up a lot of questions and changed your opinions on a lot of things after the fact. And especially during the big reveal, it had me thinking back to the first demons that helped them. But around this time, we were introduced to Norman's plan, and well, I think the whole idea is cool, but it felt a little too cruel to me. Plus, it didn't really fit in with what these kids, especially Norman, have done so far. Throughout the show, we have been exposed to how caring and kind they are, and to now go ahead with this plan almost flips it on its head. It almost goes against everything we have been shown for his character throughout the story. But I get it. Looking at both sides, they both are incredibly wrong. Eating children for hundreds of years and trying to force a population into extinction almost seem on the same level of wrong to me. So if you were against the farms, you kind of should be against Norman's plan as well. Or not, I'm not going to tell you what to think, just what I thought. But I actually agreed with Emma and Ray here. The idea of not wanting the demons to go extinct but instead trying to escape was really cool when first introduced. That later turned into having the people drink the evil-blooded one's blood, and while I do think this is good to not have the children choose between such a hard decision, it also feels kind of cheap because the moral dilemma on which side to choose was actually quite interesting. Like, I get that Emma is idealistic, and in some shows I would disagree with her, but here I agree, although it kind of felt like a watered-down version of Attack on Titan in a way. Especially with season 4's ideas. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. But seriously, Norman's plan was really messed up. Like, damn, I was not expecting that. Another thing I wasn't expecting was the whole story change. It went from being this small-scale adventure about the children surviving to mass eradication so fast. And to be honest, I don't really like the change, because the story became almost too big for the cast. I enjoyed it so much more on the smaller scale, and that's what it was really more equipped to handle. There were just too many story routes they took and side options they played around with. They should have just picked one, stayed with it, and fully developed it. In my opinion, it would have fixed a lot of the issues and probably make the whole season more enjoyable, because at a point, the story almost felt like it was going back and rewriting itself. It kept leading you on with new ideas and possibilities, then just scrap them. It was almost as if they were planning to do something with them but just never did. Like for instance, Norman's deadly sickness. I hate this trope, although I get that he was feeble and weak when he was younger, but it just felt so weird that they brought it into the story. And then it just turned out to be a drug given to him at the labs, and he found a cure super quickly and resolved it. But if it was resolved so quickly, then why was it even introduced in the first place? It just seems unnecessary. On the contrary though, I really like Norman's backstory at the lab itself. I'm super into this type of stuff. The sci-fi lab experiments and the super nondescript buildings are right up my alley. I just wish it was given more thought and leaned into further. Maybe have a whole season or arc dedicated to it and his experiences there, because I loved the location and feel. And this just brings me back to the point I made earlier. The show needs to pick what it wants to be. Does it want to be an adventure with kids in the woods surviving a crazy and mystical place? Does it want to be a daring and thought-provoking escape from a science fiction lab? Or maybe even a super over-the-top kill all the demons and save humanity type show? It just needs to pick one and commit to it. Because then at least it won't be playing this juggling act of switching genres every couple of episodes while still trying to complete a full and connected story. Because it's not and did not work. but I did like that Norman and the others eventually did see what they were doing was wrong, but I felt like the switch itself was too sudden and didn't feel realistic. It should have been slower and implemented at strategic points in the show. Besides Norman, that didn't really happen for any of the other members. Also, a smaller point, but I felt like the writing of the conversations was a little bit weird and off. And there were even some super cringy lines of dialogue spread throughout as well. The scene with Norman on the cliff speaking with the sun behind him was kinda whack, and I'm usually into stuff like that, but it was just too much for me. And don't let me get started on Isabella's turn, because let's be real, it doesn't really make much sense. Like, if this was directly after season 1, I would give it a pass, but we still had the time skip this season. Plus, she is a grandma now, so why would she give up that power? It just seems strange. Plus, she seems so eager to catch the kids when offered a second chance, and having the chips nullified during the final showdown seemed kind of cheap. I think it would have been much cooler if the betrayal had more of a sacrificial element and the mothers were all trying to atone for their sins in a way, because as it stands, it didn't feel the best, especially for a big climactic reveal. And why were the civilians involved in the finale? Why did they feel the need to make it about a class revolution? The decision is almost laughable because it was so bad, especially in the moment. It wasn't some big, yay, everyone is helping moment. It was more like an, oh, we're doing this now? Why? And there was no reason for Rattree to die, but at this point I'm almost tired of nitpicking this show, so I didn't even care at that point. And if that all wasn't enough, during the finale they just decided to stop animating it and turned it into a slideshow as the final spit in the face. Look, if I didn't watch this right after I finished rewatching the first season, maybe I would have enjoyed it more, because at this point it's just dumb fun. So if it didn't follow up such a great show, or simply didn't try to do so much, maybe it wouldn't have fallen on its face, because in my opinion the show was doomed from the start. I would have gladly watched some kids explore and wander around the forest as they tried to survive this new world, but there was also the issue from the first season where they had to go back and save the kids as well. So eventually the story would have had to shift anyway. So in a way, this season was almost constrained by the first. A few positives before I give the score for the season though. The outro was good, and the intro, while at first wasn't my thing, eventually grew on me. But those positives seem almost minuscule in comparison to the issues of this season. And the score was still going to be pretty decent, but just because of how awful that finale was, the Promised Neverland Season 2 gets a 5 out of 10. This season was truly a disappointment and stains the name of the Promised Neverland series. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. But what do you think? Did I miss and my takes are way off, or was I right on the money? Tell me what you think down below, and trust me, I read the comments. Also, look at this graph. Okay, but as always, stay awesome, too awesome. Thanks for watching.